Sunday Times is reporting that a fallout between Zwelinzima Vavi and Numsa leader Irvin Jim may be the reason that Vavi is facing suspension from the South African Federation of Trade Unions. Vavi was notified of the intention to suspend him in a letter sent this week on charges related to financial and constitutional transgressions. Now, he's denied any wrongdoing and says these are trumped-up charges. Let's talk about the situation with political analyst Elvis Masora, who's joining us now. Elvis, always good to have you on Newzroom Afrika. So, is the Vavi debacle, is the situation the beginning of a split in SAFTU?
Firstly, my dear brother Tembekile, my humble greetings to you and all the viewers of Newzroom Afrika TV. It's someone might say, Tembekile, that it seems, a mysterious, dark cloud of suspension seem to be following Zwelinzima Vavi everywhere he goes. You remember, even when he was still within the bosom of COSATU, from time to time there were allegations and reports that he might be suspended, he might be expelled up until it was effected. So I don't understand what might be happening. But, one thing that I'm observing in SAFTU is that they don't understand that when you are dealing with a leader of a labor federation, you need to be very cautious because a federation is a constellation of affiliates. Different trade unions have coalesced to form a labor federation. So in that kind of a situation, whenever you want to suspend or even expel a federation leader, you must first consult with the subordinate affiliates that form part of that federation. But to take a decision as the top leadership that you are suspending the leader of the federation, you are creating a disaster for havoc. I'm not surprised when so many affiliates within SAFTU are rejecting or rebelling against President, Meg Chavalala's decision to want to suspend, Zwelinzima Vavi. It's a recipe for disaster.
You referenced the COSATU years, and it was Vavi's it wasn't even an exit. He was basically pushed out, wasn't he? Out of COSATU, fired, told to go away. And that then led to the birth of what is now SAFTU. Now, should he, at the end of this process, go, can SAFTU grow and flourish without Vavi?
Yeah, one thing that you must understand in relation to splinter organizations, the likes of, SAFTU, because, it originates from COSATU. Remember when there was a rebellion within COSATU led by Numsa, to a point whereby finally they decide to break away from COSATU and form an independent labor federation, SAFTU. So in that kind of a situation, you must understand there are some historical and other political imperatives that affect how the splinter organization will operate. So that's why you find a situation from time to time, whenever there are tensions within a splinter organization, you will realize that there are some tentacles that originate from the previous organization, which is COSATU and ANC. So in that kind of a situation, Tembekile, you need to be very careful because Zwelinzima Vavi has got a historical, support base that is not that easy to get rid of. That support base originates from the ANC when he was expelled from COSATU. He moved with that support base into the new structure SAFTU. The same applies to Julius Malema. You can't discount the fact that Malema's support in the ANC historically originates from his support in the ANC. So I think that is exactly what SAFTU leaders are making a dangerous assessment when they deal with Zwelinzima Vavi. He has got a history of support, and it exposes itself in the form of 14 affiliates who have publicly endorsed their support for Zwelinzima Vavi. So you can't just deal with Zwelinzima Vavi like you are dealing with any other ordinary leader in SAFTU. It's not that easy.
But Elvis, does that support then mean that Vavi is above reproach if indeed there are questionable issues around his adherence to the financial rules within SAFTU, rules to do with adherence to the party or the Trade Union Federation's constitution?
In South Africa, shop floor issues are similar to politics. So it's not that easy to draw a fine distinction between party politics and labor federation affairs. So they seem to be blurring the lines. And I think it's an aspect of history. We are drawn from the liberation struggle whereby trade unions, labor federations played a very important role in assisting liberation movements to fight against apartheid. So that's why you find in South Africa a situation whereby you can't blur the lines between, shop floor matters and party political affairs. And even you go through the very same letter of intention to suspend Zwelinzima Vavi, you will find mention of the ANC many times in that particular letter. So it proves to you that, labor federation matters to a large extent in South Africa are associated with party politics. And that's why it's not that easy, because the support that Zwelinzima Vavi enjoys is not necessarily within the labor federation, but it also originates from political parties, because he supported so many politicians when he was in COSATU, when he was in the ANC. And in return, those politicians will directly or secretly lend their support to him whenever he's in trouble. So it's not a matter that Zwelinzima Vavi is bigger than SAFTU, but you can't discount those historical and political factors that count in favor of Zwelinzima Vavi.
So on that then, he had that historical support that followed him in leaving COSATU, right? Part of that support was from NUMSA, which is no small player in the labor space in this country. And if we're to go on the version of the Sunday Times, he's lost the support of NUMSA, at least if it's attached directly to Irvin Jim. So how much does that weaken him?
Is that you are breaking, occasionally breaking?
I was asking you, if you can hear me now, Elvis, this reported split between Vavi and Irvin Jim, who comes, of course, with the NUMSA power. How much does that weaken Vavi's position, his strength within SAFTU?
No, thanks very much, Tembegile. It boils down to exactly what I was saying, the inability or difficulty to differentiate, shop floor matters with party political affairs. And one thing that I'm reading into SAFTU is that the politics, internal factional politics of the ANC have penetrated deeper into the Labour Federation of SAFTU to a point whereby obviously, and I believe Vavi could have taken the side of, the Ramaphosa camp in the ANC, and possibly Irvin Jim could have taken the side of the RET, faction within the ANC. So that is the main, a fundamental cause of tensions within SAFTU leadership. And when you listen to them very much, you'll definitely realize that there is so much internal party political wrangling of the ANC that have soaked the broader shop floor affairs of SAFTU. So politics are actually involved, and they are not necessarily SAFTU politics. They are politics of the ANC that have penetrated deeper into the Labour Federation.
So on that note then, one of the other reports this weekend has been that the issue that's upset some of the other SAFTU leaders is that Vavi has been meeting, they say, without SAFTU permission, with people from the ANC who are pro-Ramaphosa, the likes of Pravin Gordhan, for example. He says, well, that's not true. SAFTU was aware, and he was holding these meetings to push issues that are important to the Federation. Now, should he leave, and all of this, of course, is up in the air at this stage, but should Vavi leave, how plausible is it that he would be able to go back within the ANC fold and find himself a cushy position?
I'm smiling, Tembegile, because when I was going through that letter from a SAFTU, President, Meg Shabalala, which was addressed to Zwelinzima Vavi, articulating on the charges or allegations that are leveled against Zwelinzima Vavi, I was laughing because there is no substance, there's no logic in those kind of allegations. Imagine you want to suspend or even expel a Labour Federation leader for meeting with a government minister. To me, that is ludicrous and foolish. There is no logic in that, because it is the responsibility of each and every leader of a Labour Federation to meet with government leaders in order to advance their interests as a Labour Federation. It is not a taboo that the leader of COSATU or SATU or NEHAU can meet with a minister or a premier in order to advance, their federation interests. Then why will you want to, suspend or even expel Zwelinzima Vavi as a federation leader to meet with a government leader? Because that is the duty of Labour federations. They must exert their pressure and influence on government by meeting with different leaders of government. You can't do that. Because to me, there's no logic, there's no wisdom in that, because that is the responsibility of a leader of a trade union from time to time to meet with government leaders in order to advance the interest of your own labor federation.
Albert Masora, political analyst. Good to have your time as always. Thank you, sir.